Heads, I say goodbye to sweets during Lent. Tails, it's Candy Crush. Oh, hey there. I'm Pastor Jake Rich. I'm one of the pastors here at St. John's Lutheran Church here in Bay City. I was just about to do a coin flip to see what one thing I was going to give up for the season of Lent. I've never given up something for Lent, and I've always been curious of what people do to decide what thing to give up. Do they do a coin flip, or do they just pick something that they have at random and choose not to use that thing or enjoy that particular delicacy, or no matter what it is? How do they decide that? Thinking about the season of Lent, what do you know about it? Perhaps the big thing you know is that, this is the time of year that people do give up something because it helps them to focus during this time of year. And so no matter if it's some kind of delicacy, like a sweet dessert that they don't eat, or perhaps they give up caffeine or something else, they feel it helps them to focus during this particular season. But maybe this leads to a new question in your mind. What exactly are people focusing on that requires them to give up something that they enjoy? You see, during the season of Lent, the focus of the church here is all on the sufferings that Jesus Christ endured as our Savior of the world. And Jesus went through a lot of sufferings in our place. He experienced temptations from the devil himself. He experienced rejection from his own people who refused to believe he's the Savior. And in his greatest hour of need, his own disciples, those men who followed him around for 3 years and learned from him, flee in terror as his enemies come after him. Oh yes, Jesus endured a lot of suffering, and this is what we focus on during Lent. And yet, as we study these things, we really get to the bottom of the main question that maybe you've always had in your mind. Why is it that Jesus suffers? For perhaps you know, Jesus was a perfect man. He did absolutely nothing wrong. At least nothing that did not deserve punishment. So maybe that was the opinion you've had, that Jesus has done nothing to merit punishment, yet he suffers and eventually is crucified on a cross where he dies. And so perhaps indeed you've had that question. Why does Jesus suffer and die if he's done nothing wrong? Nothing to earn such treatment? As we focus on that suffering of Jesus, we come to realize one important truth. It's not because Jesus has done something wrong that he suffers and dies, for indeed he did nothing wrong. But Jesus suffers and dies because you and I have done something wrong. In fact, we've done more than just one thing wrong. We've done a lot of things wrong. No doubt if you and I took some time to sit down and think about all the things we've thought, said, or done in the past, we'd probably find a lot of things we're pretty ashamed about. Maybe we think of a time where we just didn't like someone, and in our minds we thought they were absolutely a jerk. But then we found out later on that they actually aren't a jerk, but are one of the nicest people in the world, and now we feel guilty for having thought they were a jerk. Or maybe there's that time where one of our friends said something that just really irritated us. It frustrated us, and eventually that frustration just kept building inside us that eventually we said something hateful to them. And while we have made up with our friend and our friendship continues, perhaps we still feel a little embarrassed, a little ashamed that we said such hurtful things to our friend. Or maybe we think of a time where we could have helped out someone who was in need. Perhaps we thought of donating to a charity concert that was being held in the park. But instead we decided our big family vacation needs the money more than just this charity event. And while we enjoyed our vacation, we realized we missed a chance to help out in our community. And perhaps that embarrasses us now too. No matter what it is, you and I can think of many times where we did something absolutely wrong. That it wasn't right. It wasn't pleasing to anyone. It was hurtful to our neighbor. But most of all, those things were hurtful toward God. For God, it says in the Bible that all those who think, say, or do things that aren't pleasing to Him and helpful to those around us are worthy of punishment. So yes, even that tiny thought that someone's a jerk makes us worthy of punishment. And that is the reason why Jesus suffers and dies. That is what we focus on in the season of Lent. That Jesus suffers and dies for us. For you and I really deserve the suffering and death that Jesus endured. For that is what we have earned by the bad things we've done. We've earned nothing but suffering and death. But maybe this then leads to the question, why does Jesus suffer and die for us when it's us who have done the bad things and He's done nothing wrong? Well, the truth is, Jesus suffers and dies for us because of His great love for us. Jesus is indeed the perfect Son of God. He did absolutely nothing wrong when He lived here on earth. But when He saw that we ought to be punished because of all the many things we do wrong, He decided He couldn't let that happen. So instead, He came to earth to take on our suffering and to die the death that we deserve. He does this all because He loves us. And He wants us to know that He forgives us for all the bad things we've thought, said, and done in our lives. He wants us to know just how much He loves us. And the blessed thing is, the season of Lent doesn't end in complete sadness. Lent doesn't end with Jesus dead and buried forever. Rather, the season of Lent ends on a joyful note. It fully ends on a Sunday you probably know very well, Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday is the day when Jesus rose triumphantly again from the dead, assuring us that we have God's forgiveness forever, assuring us that we have Jesus' love forever. And He also assures us that we have a spot with Him forever in heaven. And so if you're one of those people who likes to do a coin flip or pick some blessing you enjoy to give up during Lent, go ahead and do so. I hope it helps you to focus on why Jesus suffers and dies. And if you aren't someone who does that, that's quite all right. There's no requirement that says you have to give something up. But ultimately, my hope for you is that you do indeed see that it's because of your sins and my sins that Jesus suffers and dies. But that I hope you also feel joy, knowing that Jesus' death doesn't mean He stays buried forever, but that after His death He comes back to life and rises again from the dead, assuring us that we are indeed forgiven forever. Are you someone who is looking for that forgiveness for the bad things you've done? Are you looking for that peace with God that you so desperately crave? Then come join us here at St. John's Lutheran as we celebrate that forgiveness and peace that Jesus wins for us through his sufferings and death. We have worship services here at 9 a.m. on Sundays and 7 p.m. on Mondays. Also, during this month of March, we have special midweek services on Wednesday. Those times are at 3:15 and 7. Please join us as we contemplate again just what an amazing and loving God we have in Jesus, that he would be willing to suffer and die, all so that we wouldn't have to be punished for our sins. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a big coin flip to make. But I just can't give up either one. This will be tough.